Welcome to This Baker Life, the very first episode of This Baker Life, and it's going to have to be an ornery one. I hate that. I wanted to start it off in a positive light, but let's take a look at this because I want you guys to understand or question, is what's happening right now with the prices you're paying on groceries and other things in life a corporate greed, or is it inflation? We're going to take a look at some of what you guys have been posting on Twitter of all the things you're buying right now and all the crazy prices you're paying. This comes off a TikTok I just did, which I'll play for you as well as part of this episode. But this is the premiere episode of This Baker Life, the podcast, and we've got to be a little bit angry. And I don't want to do that, but maybe we can find an answer too. Here we go. All right, here we are, very first episode of This Baker Life, and this is going to be a great podcast because we're going to talk everything life, and just it's the life. I lead it, you lead it, we all lead it. Let's lead it together. This is life, but we're not always going to be as positive as we can be, and that's unfortunate because for me, I don't know what your New Year's resolution was this year, but mine was all good things. It was to get healthier. I got a weight loss journey going on. If you follow me on TikTok, you know that. But if you don't, that's fine too. Although I'd love it if you go give it a follow. Make sure you like and subscribe to this page as well, because we've got a couple of different podcasts. My wife just put out a brand new one for if anybody that's an MS warrior, go check that out. This podcast itself, this show itself is going to have guests on it every single week, except this week. And we're going to take care of some of the topics in life that some of you are facing, just like me and anyone else. So today's is a little bit sensitive. A little bit touchy. We're going to be a little touchy here. This week, today, actually, I put out a podcast, or not a podcast, sorry, a TikTok that kind of got a little bit of reaction, and it was harsh reaction toward the world of corporate greed, toward the world of inflation, and even towards government. So let's ask you, let's be part of this. Comment after you've watched this video, after you've listened to this podcast. Make a comment. What's happening in your world? What's happening locally to you? Because I know what's happening here. We're getting gouged, and it's one or two things here. It's either inflation in our country or in multiple countries. We'll show that later. But also, is it just corporate greed? Is it corporate greed? When you go to the grocery store and you're paying ridiculous prices on things that you've never paid that price before, is it just corporate greed? Delivery services are the same thing. If you look at the TikTok I talked about too, it's, they've now added heavy load fees. Okay, so not only am I paying higher prices for each and every item in my Instacart, but I'm also paying you to deliver my order. I'm also tipping your driver to do the same thing. And just because there's now $200 worth of groceries in there, or one of the items seems a little heavy, you're going to charge me an extra $10 on top of that. Now, there's convenience to delivery. We know that. So don't get too ornery about those fees, but they are high fees on top of the fact that they already raised the prices of the groceries you're paying for. So what is this? Well, take a look at the TikTok that I put out today and see for yourself what I said. And then we'll talk about some of the people's comments, and we'll talk about what I'm seeing on social media about all of this. It's nuts. Hey all, so can we talk a little bit about this inflation that's going on right now? This is not really inflation, this is explosion. I went to the grocery store. There are these burgers that I used to buy at Loblaws, and maybe Loblaws can do it like one of those Stitch things or whatever, and talk to me about this, because those boxes of burgers, the Angus ones, they used to go on sale for $9.99. They were like $11.99 regularly, pretty often. $17.98, guys. $17.98 after 6 months ago being $11.99. That's a hell of an increase. I saw somebody else that put up a picture of the bacon, and that they had this bacon that they had bought for something like $6 or $7.99, and this was years ago, and they had posted it on Twitter or something, and it said, my new favorite bacon was a maple bacon or something. It was literally just a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, and then they posted it side by side with a picture of that same bacon today, again from Loblaw's group of companies. I'm not sure which of their stores, but it was 12 something today from $5.99 or $6.99 just 2 years ago. What is going on in this country right now with inflation? That is insanity. That is absolutely insanity. Everybody should be up in arms about this. I can't even believe that everybody's so quiet about this right now. I'm not even going to be quiet. I'm generally a guy that isn't going to get in your face about anything, but holy cow, $5 and $6? Are you kidding me? Like, Justin Trudeau, where are you here to figure this out? Like, somebody's got to put a stop to some of this. How are people even eating? I mean, you better have 2 or 3 jobs going into 2023, 2024 if you're going to ever be able to buy groceries. On top of that, you've got all these delivery services that are charging you tips and delivery fees, and watch the other thing. The other thing that they're charging now is heavy loads. So if you go ahead and you buy $200 worth of groceries on a delivery service, they're charging you another $5.99 or even $9.99 in some cases because your load is heavy. On top of the fact that you've already paid for the tip, on top of the fact that you've already paid for the inflation, which they inflate even more on a delivery service, and they're charging you a delivery fee. Even though they say if you sign up for their $9.99 a month thing, you don't get charged a delivery fee, you get a reduced fee. There's a handling fee and other things that they add that are maybe $3 and $4.99 instead of $9.99. Oh, thank you for your courtesy and your kindness. So, what? I don't know how anybody is going to afford this life, honestly. I really don't. Something needs to be done. Government needs to step in. All right, so that's about as ornery as I get. Those are not typical of me. I'm not going to, if you go onto my TikTok at This Baker Life, they're all the same, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, give me a follow. I'll give you a follow right back. This is one of those things where I'm not normally this guy, but to go in and see those burgers and, I mean, how can you raise something $5 in less than a year? Imagine that. That's one product. One freaking product. Now add 30 other products to your grocery cart. Now what's happening? If you think that it's a $5 increase into your grocery cart for one item, and let's say on average it's not really $5. Let's say on average it's $2 to $3. Even that, you're talking about another $100 sometimes or more. That is insane. $50 to $100 or more. That is nuts. And we've got stories all around. I'm in the mortgage industry for my daily life. Let's call it that. This is kind of a side thing, side hustle, whatever you want to call this podcast and this channel. But I'm in the mortgage industry, education side of it, but still I see it all every day. And I'm seeing clients who are talking about, renewals on their private mortgages going up $1,200 a month on their renewal. Now, I'm sure they have reasons that they have to stay in a private mortgage, but it's kind of insane to think about that. But it's not really necessary to blame the private mortgage companies. They have to go along with what's going on with the rates with the Bank of Canada, and they do it, and they have to also take on a lot more risk. So there's reasons for those rate increases, but unbelievable the amount of how much those monthly payments are going up. Even those with prime mortgages, are seeing, I saw a comment on my TikTok about, their mortgage payment was $549 a year and a half ago, and now they're paying $900 and something biweekly. So you've got that. You've got $549 biweekly versus $900 and something. Then on top of that, you're adding these grocery prices, you're adding these gas prices, you're adding all of this inflation. And my question to you is this inflation or is this corporate greed? Well, I think it's probably a little bit of both. And if you look at the comments on that particular TikTok, that was one of the big comments was, is this corporate greed? Is it Justin Trudeau's fault if you're in Canada? Is it whoever's leader's fault, Joe Biden, whatever? Or is it the corporate greed that's going on? And I want to show you shared picture. Sorry, I apologize for my pause here as I'm looking for it. I had it up here. Here it is. Here it is. This is bonkers. So this is a guy by the name of David Keast. He has put you'll see it on your screen here in just a second, a picture of a steak he bought. And this is where it kind of leans, in my opinion, to corporate greed. Look at this. Costco versus Loblaw group of companies in Canada. Now, we are looking at Real Canadian Superstore specifically. This is ridiculous. This is the same weight. This is the same weight. And thank you, Dave, and I hope you're okay with me using your tweet. Dave Keast, look at this. $35.78 for the same weight of the same meat at Costco in the Kirkland Signature brand versus $71.85. That is nuts. I mean, how can anyone afford that? How can anyone afford that? I mean, I'm baffled. I'm still sitting here baffled. I've already done the TikTok. I already know what we're going to talk about in this episode of this Baker Life show. But how is anybody? So now you go back to that person that was on the TikTok that left a comment that said, my mortgage payment went from $549 to $950. So that's twice a month, by the way, bi-weekly, that person is paying that new number. That means $959, $959, whatever it was, twice a month, and sometimes 3 in a longer month. So then, on top of that, you're sending this person to potentially Real Canadian Superstore, as you see on your screen, and paying $71.85 for this piece of meat. Now, of course, you don't have to pay for this piece of meat. You can go buy the canned ham if you want. But is this what we're going to do to people? Are we going to take away the healthier styles of eating because it's just way too expensive and ask them to go get a can of Spam instead? Because there are tweeters, we're going to look at one in a little bit, that has suggested something like that. You don't like it, go buy something cheaper. Go buy something else. Well, okay, I'll have a can of zoodles then for my dinner for the next however long this inflation lasts, and be completely unhealthy and emaciated. Is that what you're asking me to do because I don't like the prices? Give me a break. Anyway, this is crazy. So that's our first example. So let's take that example away. We don't want to look at that anymore. But let's take a look at this one. This one's a fun one. This one is, and I am Butterfly Sue is the Twitter handle. So thanks, Sue, for posting this on Twitter. Hashtag ripoff, hashtag I'm at the airport. Look at this. She wants to play a game, and I love this game. This is great. The game is, how much did this group of things cost? And you're looking on your screen, you got, looks like a Caesar salad, a chicken Caesar at that, a Lunchable, a strawberry parfait, and a Pringles and a Coke. Okay, so you got all of this, and it looks like a lot. I'm going to guess, or I guessed before I saw the answer to this, that even with inflation, this was around $25 to $30. So let's take a look at what it really was. Again, thank you, Sue, for this one. Okay, so here we go. Here is the answer from Sue. Can you believe this? Can you believe this? $40.24 for this group of items. Unreal. I said, now, again, I get it. It's an airport. This is in Phoenix, Arizona. It's an airport. I understand that. Prices are higher. I get that. But should they be $40.24 for that group of items? I can tell you right now in Canada, that's probably a $60, $55 order. For sure. For sure it is. With our inflation and the way that this price gouging is happening right now in the Great White North, Sue, I can tell you, you'd pay more for this at Pearson Airport in Toronto than you did in Phoenix, and you still paid way too much to that whatever store that you were at. That is crazy. That is crazy. That's one example. Another example, I should say. And let's go back to Loblaw's group of companies for the next one. Allie, it's my cancer wig dumbass is that's a kind of a neat handle, although I hope you're not going through too many hard times right now, Allie. This one says seriously, WTF, Loblaws, $9.48 for plain cooked rice, a little tub of it. It's not even that big of a tub, and it's almost $10. Are you kidding me? Another example of that. And it's not just happening in Canada. It's not just happening in the US. Let's head over to across the pond to our British friends. And you've got $6.50 in pounds here. And I'm probably pronouncing that wrong because I've never been there and I haven't learned it. And I apologize for that. But I do know this is a lot of money if you converted it in Canadian or American. This is for a roll. Simply a roll. This is happening far, and it looks like it's in Ireland. So this is Olivia. Thank you, Olivia, for posting this. This is insane. This is happening all over the world. Is it corporate greed? Is it or is it in fact inflation? Is it something governments can step in on? Is it something your government is already stepping in on? Is it something they should step in on? Because to me, I would like Justin Trudeau here in Canada to at least say or do something about that. You know, his opponents are calling it just inflation because it's really kind of his responsibility for how much he spent versus what it's doing to the economy for how much he spent during the COVID times. But again, I have to give our government leaders some credit in COVID. Nobody could have faced that and not done any of this and not given help to its citizens in a country. I understand to a certain extent the spending to a level, but at the same time, you know, look what it's done with inflation. Is this something that we can? And again, I hearken back a little bit to that Costco picture because Costco was significantly cheaper than Loblaws. Is this just Galen Weston and the Loblaw group of companies just going outright batty on their pricing? Or is this an inflationary thing? Maybe their suppliers. And again, I don't know. So, you know, don't come at me or anything about coming after Loblaws. I actually don't know the answer. Is this a supplier issue? Is this a whatever it is, whatever it's doing, it's hurting people. It's hurting people and their ability to afford healthy food for their families and their ability to afford putting food on the table. We just can't have this continue. There's going to be foreclosures. There's going to be people on the streets. There's going to be more people demanding on our food banks. It is getting insane. Now, one thing I do want to point out, and again, I don't want to continue to jump all over Loblaw group of companies, but for the next two and final looks at this, and you can make comments as much as you want in the comments section. It's always open for discussion. You can hate me, you can love me. I'm not worried about that. Look at this. Evan says, Evan is mad at Loblaws, and he should be in this particular case. And again, this could just be a misprint. So, you know, fine print could be a misprint, but I really hope this isn't true. Evan says, I had no intention of weighing in on the grocery prices, but then Loblaws made blue Powerade 50 cents more expensive than the rest of the colors. Now, is this corporate greed burying higher prices into certain more popular colors of a single same drink? It costs no more to produce the blue one than the purple one. And we know that to be fact. So why is it 2 for $3.50 for the blue one and 2 for $3 for the purple one? That doesn't make sense to me. I would love for somebody from Loblaws to offer to come on to our next episode as a guest and explain some of this to me, because this is just insane. And I'm sure it's happening at other grocery chains as well. I've heard stories in my comments about Safeway, about Metro, about other places too following suit. So this is not just a Loblaws problem, and maybe it's not even just a grocery problem. We've seen, of course, the tweets and everything about the mortgages. So it's kind of everywhere. But is it corporate greed, or is it inflation? That's the big question of today's episode. And lastly, I want you to take a look at somebody saying this. This is the food professor. Now, I don't know what he's professing to here. He's obviously posted a very expensive chicken, and that's fine. It's actually not all that expensive. It's compared to some of the stuff we've seen today on this episode. But in taking a look at it, he says last week, Loblaws free from chicken breast, boneless, skinless was $26.86 per kilogram. It's almost 15% cheaper now. Even better deals from other grocers. Uh, like mentioned last week, if it's too expensive, walk away. You have more power than you think. Well, this seems like a big city attitude to me, doesn't it? Anybody of you in a small town? Any of you in a small town right now with one grocery store, the independent grocer, a Loblaws group of companies, or something else like a Foodland, or whatever you have wherever you are in any country that you're in? That's the only one, isn't it? And you might have to drive 30 minutes, 45 minutes to get to your next one. Maybe it's even more in some of the Canadian prairies and other places where they drive 2 hours to cities. Are you really going to drive 2 hours because it might be a little cheaper at some other place? Or are you going to go to the one that has all the groceries near you? You're going to do that. You're just going to do that. This is such a closed-minded tweet because it's not that easy. It might be that easy where you're from, Food Professor, but it's not that easy where everybody's from. It's not that easy for the small towner. It's not that easy for somebody who can't just jump in their car. It's not that easy for somebody that has a poor transit system in their city and only relies on that to travel. It's not that easy for people who are immobile or disabled. They may have to go to their own grocery store right around the corner, even though there's one 5 minutes away, but they can't walk that distance. So this is not the more power than you think. That's your privileged power, Food Professor, but it is not necessarily everyone's power. So I want to leave it at that because that's my final thought on this. And, to me, I'm going to say it borders on corporate greed more so than inflation, but I'm going to let you decide that. Make your comments, like and subscribe to this channel. We're going to have lots more podcasts like this. We're going to talk to leaders in businesses. We're going to talk about a lot more positive things too. Don't worry that not every episode is going to be attacking inflation or governments or companies or anything like that. We don't want this podcast to be that. It's just, how do we lead this life together? That's what this Baker life is all about. It's my last name, but we all do it. We all lead this life and we all have a life to lead and we all want it to be nice and long and healthy and happy and be with our families. And that's what we're going to talk about as part of this podcast at all times. That is the subject. But today's subject was a little harsh on the inflation and obviously on the potential for corporate greed here. What's your thought? What are you thinking? Leave it in the comments. This is our life to lead together. You lead it, I lead it. So let's lead it together. We'll see you next week.